The ticking of the clock. Vienna, January 1894. The office is large but looks smaller than it is due to the volume of its contents. While a great deal of its walls are composed of frosted glass, most of it is obscured by cabinets and shelves. The drafting table by the windows is all but hidden in the meticulously ordered chaos of papers and diagrams and blueprints. The bespectacled man seated behind it is almost invisible, blending in with his surroundings. The sound of his pencil scratching against paper is as methodical and precise as the ticking of the clock in the corner. There is a knock on the frosted glass door, and the scratching pencil halts, though the ticking clock pays no heed. "Ah, a Miss Burgess to see you, sir," an assistant calls from the open door. "She says not to bother you if you are otherwise occupied." "Not a bother at all," Mr. Barr says, placing his pencil down and rising from his seat. "Please send her in." The assistant moves from the doorway and is replaced by a young woman in a stylish lace-trimmed dress. "Hello, Ethan," Tara Burgess says. "My apologies for dropping by unannounced." "No apologies necessary, my dear Tara. You look lovely, as always," Mr. Barr says, kissing her on both cheeks. "And you haven't aged a day," Tara says pointedly. His smile wavers and he looks away, moving to close the door behind her. "What brings you to Vienna?" he asks. "And where's your sister? I so rarely see the two of you apart." "Lainey is in Dublin with the circus," Tara says, turning her attention to the contents of the room. I wasn't in the mood, so I thought I would do some traveling on my own. Visiting far-flung friends seemed a good place to start. I would have sent a telegram, but it was all a bit spontaneous, and I wasn't entirely sure if I would be welcome." "You are always welcome, Tara," Mr. Barr says. He offers her a seat, but she does not notice. Drifting through the tables covered in highly detailed models of buildings, stopping here and there to investigate a detail further, the arch of a doorway, the spiral of a staircase. "It becomes difficult to tell the difference between old friends and business associates in cases like ours, I think," Tara says. "Whether we are the kind of people who make polite conversation to cover shared secrets, or something more than that. This one is marvelous," she adds, pausing at a model of an elaborate open column with a clock suspended in the center. "Thank you," Mr. Barr says. "It's quite far from completion. I need to send the finished plans to Friedrich so he can start construction on the clock. I suspect it will be much more impressive when built to scale." "Do you have plans for the circus here?" Tara asks, looking over the diagrams pinned to the walls. "No, I don't, actually. I left them with Marco in London. I meant to keep copies on file, but I must have forgotten." "Did you forget to keep copies of any of your other plans?" Tara asks, running a finger along the line of cabinets fitted with long, thin shelves, each one piled with carefully ordered papers. "No," Mr. Barr says. Do you find that strange?" Tara asks. "Not particularly," Mr. Barr says. "Do you think it strange?" "I think a great many things about the circus strange," Tara says, fidgeting with the lace at the cuff of her sleeve. Mr. Barr sits at his desk, leaning back in his chair. "Are we going to discuss whatever it is you are here to discuss instead of dancing around it?" he asks. "I was never a particularly good dancer." "I know for a fact that is not true," Tara says, settling into the chair opposite, though her gaze continues to wander around the room. "But it would be nice to be direct for a change. I sometimes wonder if any of us remember how. Why did you leave London?" "I suspect I left London for much the same reasons that you and your sister travel so often," Mr. Barr says. A few too many curious looks and backhanded compliments. "I doubt anyone realized that the day my hair stopped thinning was the same as the opening night of the circus. But they did begin to notice after a time. While our Tanta Padba might simply be aging well, and anything and everything about Chandrish can be written off as eccentric, we are put under a different kind of scrutiny by being somewhat closer to ordinary. It is easier for those who can simply disappear into the circus," Tara says, gazing out the window. Once in a while, Lady suggests that we follow it around ourselves, but I think that would only be a temporary solution. We are too mercurial for our own good. You could just let it go, Mr. Barrett says, quietly. Tara shakes her head. How many years until moving cities becomes insufficient? What is the solution beyond that? Changing our names? I do not enjoy being forced into such deceptions. I don't know, Mr. Barrett says. There's a great deal more going on than we are privy to, of that I'm quite sure, Tara says with a sigh. I tried to talk to Chandler. It was like we were speaking two different languages. I do not like sitting idly by when something clearly isn't right. I feel not trapped, but something like it, and I don't know what to do about it. Are you looking for answers? And you're looking for answers, Mr. Barris says. I don't know what I'm looking for, Tara responds, and for a moment her face crumples as though she might burst into tears, but then she composes herself. Ethan, do you sometimes feel like you are dreaming all the time? No, I can't say that I do. I am finding it difficult to discern between asleep and awake, Tara says, tugging at her lace cuffs again. I do not like being left in the dark. I am not particularly fond of believing in possible things. Mr. Barnes takes off his spectacles, wiping the lenses with a handkerchief before he replies, holding them up to the light to check for rogue smudges. I have seen a great many things I might once have considered impossible or unbelievable. I find I no longer have clearly defined parameters for such matters. I choose to do my work to the best of my own abilities and leave others to their own. He pulls open a drawer of the desk, and after searching for a moment, he takes out a business card that contains only a single name. Even looking at it upside down, Tara can easily discern the A and the H, if nothing else. Mr. Barris picks up a pencil and writes a London address beneath the printed name. I don't think any of us knew that night precisely what we were getting ourselves into, he says. If you insist on delving deeper into all this, I think he might be the only one of us that may help, though I cannot guarantee that he'll be entirely forthcoming. He slides the card across the desk to Tara. She regards it carefully before slipping it into her bag, as though she is not entirely sure it is real. Thank you, Ethan, she says without looking at him. I appreciate this, truly. You're welcome, my dear, Mr. Barris says. I hope you find what you are looking for. Tara only nods distractedly, and then they discuss other matters of little import while the clock ticks through the afternoon hours, and the light beyond the frosted glass windows fades considerably. Though he asks her to join him for dinner, she declines politely and leaves alone. Mr. Barris returns to his drafting table, scratching pencil and taking clock in harmony once more.